Scroll the mirror maze of Madame Lavoisier, a Parisian mystery. Part 1. The Enigma of Montmartre. Paris, 1889. The Eiffel Tower stood as a beacon of progress, but in the winding alleys of Montmartre, older mysteries thrived. At 13 Rue des Ambres, Madame Lavoisier, a woman whose age was as unreadable as the shadows in her establishment, presided over the Labyrinth des Miroirs. The entrance was an unassuming oak door, marked only by a tarnished silver keyhole. Inside, the air smelled of beeswax, ozone, and something else, something like forgotten memories. For 1 franc, visitors could lose themselves in a labyrinth of countless mirrors. Each mirror was a gateway, not to another place, but to another possibility. The artist Pierre Renoir saw himself painting masterpieces in a sunlit studio in the south of France, a life he had abandoned for Parisian poverty. The socialite Isabelle de Montaigne witnessed herself married to a humble bookseller, a man her family had forbidden her to see. She left the maze weeping, her perfectly powdered cheeks streaked with tears. But not all stories ended so benignly. A young banker named Claude Fournier entered the maze and emerged hours later, screaming about a reflection that had stepped out of its frame and taken his place. He was committed to Salpêtrière Hospital, where he would spend the rest of his days scratching at the walls, begging the orderlies to check their reflections. Part 2. A journalist's investigation. Émile Rousseau, a rationalist and rising star at Le Figaro, saw Madame Lavoisier as a predator preying on the gullible. On the evening of October 31st, 1889, he entered the maze, his pocket watch ticking loudly in the unnatural silence. He carried a notebook, a vial of ink, and a determination to expose the truth. His journey through the maze unfolded like a descent into madness. Mirror 47 showed him accepting the Légion d'honneur for his investigative reporting. The reflection winked at him. Mirror 118 revealed him as a broken old man, huddled in his childhood apartment, surrounded by yellowed newspapers and empty bottles. Mirror 256 showed his sister, Lucy, who had died of consumption 5 years earlier, alive and healthy, laughing as she arranged flowers on a sun-drenched table. The reflection of Lucy turned to him and whispered, "You could have saved me." Mirror 512. This mirror was different, cracked, with a dark, viscous substance seeping from its frame. It showed Émile still trapped in the maze, years later, his hair white, his fingers blooded from clawing at the glass. His reflection mouthed the words, "You will never leave." Part 3. The Dark Revelation. As Émile staggered away from Mirror 512, he found Madame Lavoisier waiting for him. Her eyes were the color of tarnished silver, and she moved with an unnatural grace, as if gliding on ice. "You think this is a trick, Monsieur Rousseau," she said, her voice like the rustling of old pages. "These mirrors are not illusions. They are fragments of other realities, possibilities that were, that are, or that might yet be. My family has guarded them for generations. We are curators." She explained the terrible truth. The reflections were not mere images. They were conscious, aware of their trapped existence, and envious of those who lived in the fluid, changing world. Some reflections had learned to manipulate the glass, to reach through and pull their viewers into their static worlds, taking their places in the real Paris. As she spoke, Émile noticed movement in the peripheral mirrors. Reflections that did not match their viewers. A woman brushing her hair in one mirror while her real counterpart stood frozen. A child waving from another while the real child wept. Part 4. The trap closers panicked. Émile tried to retrace his steps, but the maze had shifted. Corridors he remembered were now dead ends, and familiar mirrors showed terrifying new possibilities. The reflections began to speak, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of promises and threats. "Let me out," begged a reflection that wore his face. "I will write your stories. I will make you famous." "Stay with us," whispered another. "We are all Émile Rousseau here." In the real world, a different Émile emerged from the maze. This Émile was colder, more brilliant, his prose sharper, his insights unnervingly prescient. He quickly rose to prominence, but his colleagues noticed strange quirks. He never looked directly at his reflection in windows, and he seemed to study people as if memorizing them. The true Émile watched this doppelganger live his life through the mirrors, powerless to intervene. Part 5. The modern mystery in 2023. During renovations of a Montmartre building, construction workers broke through a false wall and discovered a hidden room. It was filled with antique mirrors, their surfaces clouded with age. Among them, one mirror stood out. Its frame was carved with weeping angels, and its surface was marred by what appeared to be fresh fingerprints. When a conservator wiped the glass clean, She revealed a message etched into the silver backing. "Help, I am Émile Rousseau, trapped since 1889. The reflections are real. They watch you now. Beware the man who wears MY face. He is not ME." Historical research confirmed that the real Émile Rousseau had undergone a dramatic personality change in late 1889. The man who wrote the acclaimed series on Parisian mysteries, the very series that had made him famous, was, according to this message, an imposter. Part 6. The Eternal Labyrinth. Today, the mirrors from Madame Lavoisier's collection are scattered across the globe, sold as antiques to unsuspecting buyers. But those who own them report strange occurrences. A fashion designer in New York sees her reflection moving seconds before she does. A teacher in Tokyo notices a shadowy figure standing behind him in his bedroom mirror. A family in London finds their toddler having conversations with the man in the glass. Some say Madame Lavoisier's maze still exists, hidden in the spaces between realities, and that the reflections are growing stronger, learning new ways to cross over. In a world of social media and digital screens, where we capture our reflections countless times a day, who would notice if one of them decided to stay?